Greetings fellow flat caps and welcome to the Spectrum. This is Frankie. We've been babysitting her for the last 5 days. She goes home today, but I didn't want to send her home without showing you just how adorable she is. Aww. Now that I have your attention with cute little pupper, next thing I want to say is thank you everyone who came to the charity stream. We were able to hit our goal of £100 and we sent that off to Doctor Without Borders, so once again thank you everyone who came along. Very much appreciation and love to you all. But you're not here for that, are you? You're here for more alien murder. And I can provide just that with the final in the UFO Trilogy entries. UFO Afterlight, which takes a little bit of an odd turn in its presentation. Set during Aftershock, Afterlight tells the story of the survivors of Earth who were relocated to Mars instead of a Laputa, as they tried to terraform the Red Planet into a new Earth. For the humans to fuck up, of course, because that's what we do. The game starts with a tutorial which teaches... What the hell is this? Aside from the change of location, one of the biggest changes to the series is that it now looks like a beta concept of the Clone Wars CGI cartoon. The entire cast of your Mars colony looks like this. Let's meet some of them, shall we? We've got Creepy Uncle, Military Uncle, Anime Protagonist, Geralt, Whoopi Goldberg, John Lennon, and a corpse. Each of the characters has their own unique look with individual voices, and you can even see them in their suit as clear as day. However, I think this might come with a drawback for the game. I'll get into that later, but right now let's carry on with the tutorial. The tutorial's a simple enough level. You wander through the level, and as you reach certain points, tutorial messages... Wait, hang on, scratch that. Way too many tutorial messages give you a task to do, and describe every single little thing you can do in rapid succession. Here's your objective. Kill the last enemy. Okay. Did you know you can press spacebar to pause time? Yes, I did. Can I play now? It's better to attack in a group. I know! Okay, I think the messages have stopped now. This is what happens when... Like in the previous titles, the controls have pretty much stayed the same. You can still do what you'd expect to do. Move the camera, move the soldiers around, tell them what way to face, pick up items, what firing mode to use, what stance they should have, change the gameplay speed, and so on and so on. What you might not expect is that your soldiers now do less than before, at least at the start of the game. Being on Mars, your character now runs around in a spacesuit. Well, not run, strut.
I'm too sexy for my shirt.
The troops can only walk and are incapable of going prone or crouching. Meaning if your preferred tactic is stealth or full frontal assault, you're going to have to wait until you train them in wearing spacesuits to teach them how to lie down or run in a spacesuit. Until then, your best tactic is to waddle over and fire at the enemy and hope that you kill them first before they kill you. The short tutorial level tells a story, but it isn't explaining exactly what's happening until you reach home base. Something strange is happening at an excavation site, so the base sends a single unarmed person to investigate. I can see why this group was sent to Mars now. You come across a corpse of a scientist next to a robot. You kill the robot and escape with a survivor hiding in a nearby building. After which, you're taken to the good old Geosphere. This also operates like in previous games, but has had some differences made to it. The first you'll notice are these tabs. Each one represents a head of a department in your colony, who all talk past you about the plot and only talk to you whenever they want to boast about what it is they've done. They talk about how the sudden threat of robotic enemies will force them to They talk to each other about how the sudden threat of robotic enemies will force them to postpone terraforming Mars so that they can research and build weapons to fight back against Skynet, this unknown enemy. Selecting an option at the top of the screen gives you a quick description of what they do. The globe, as is tradition, is where you'll send your soldiers off to go on missions, but it's also where you can build excavation sites so that later on you can send people there to build mines there as well. Base takes you to an overview of your base. Unlike before where you had lots of small bases, you now only have one big base, and you build structures where they fit to increase your competency as an army and the room you have to build more things inside it. Overview tells you of your income and materials. Research lets you develop new technologies, productions lets you build those technologies, storage is where you see all your stuff and manage it, People is your collection of cartoon characters as they stare into your soul, where you can level up and train them in new skills. Squads is where you decide who is part of a field team, equipment is where you equip the squads, and diplomacy is where you pretend to like people to get stuff. Speaking of pretending to like people, you'll grow to hate the leaders of the departments. They never shut up. All you want to do is let time pass so that laser gun you've ordered to be built can be ready for your squad. But they interrupt you every few seconds just to tell you something you already know, like a needy little child.
A new building has been constructed at the base.
A new item has been produced.
We have discovered and explored new territory. We can occupy new territory. Our water supply has been suspended. Our territory has been invaded.
Input of resources has been decreased.
A new hand touches the beacon.
Nico, it's Roman. Let's go bowling.
It wouldn't be a problem if they didn't pause time whenever they wanted you to notice them, senpai. As you're getting used to everything and training your staff, developing tech and so on, trouble rears its ugly head as the water pipeline to the North Pole is being attacked and you have 3 in-game days to complete the mission or else you lose, as a lack of water makes your base blow up apparently. So, our first proper mission with a full squad. Once they're fully equipped, and they have to be fully equipped otherwise the game won't let you send them out, the game carries on explaining the different stances and firing modes you can use, but what you're going to appreciate now is that the HUD is a lot more cleaner. It's not all blocky and cramped, it's a lot easier to read and understand. The minimalist symbols are clear in their functions and what they represent, and it's very easy to use and operate. What you won't appreciate is the camera. If you have it set to auto, then it will constantly swap between floors regardless as to which one you've got selected. But if it isn't doing that, it will fly around every time your units need to speak, and it can happen several times in a row, pausing the game while you're trying to give orders to other soldiers and disorientating you because now you're on the other side of the map while you're trying to look at enemies. God, it's like being a parent with too many kids. I'm always angry and full of regret. Swapping it to free made it a hell of a lot easier to operate, but it also meant I couldn't highlight an enemy if one was spotted and had to find it myself. With a minimap I had an idea of course of where it could be, but actually finding them can sometimes be a very hard task. Why can't I just use the Find Bad Guy button that you put into the game, which is meant to be used during combat?
You're a fucking idiot!
And speaking of combat, it is just like it works in the other games. The chance to hit the enemy is above their heads, and factors like stance, fire rate and vantage points will affect it positively or negatively. Units and enemies can be knocked down, and the damage is separated into 4 different categories: healthy, recoverable, temporary, semi-permanent. One change you should be aware of is that friendly fire is now a lot easier to do. Unlike before where soldiers wouldn't fire if an ally was in the way. Frankie! Unlike before where soldiers wouldn't fire if an ally was in the way, here they will regardless of whoever is in the way. Poor Harold here has had like 7 new arseholes shot into him. There are elements now that make the combat a little harder, simply for the fact that you are on Mars. Not only should you have someone who knows how to use a med kit so that they can heal people, you also need someone who knows how to use a repair tool so that they can fix spacesuits whenever they're damaged. Whenever someone gets a damaged spacesuit, their health will begin to drain constantly, to the point where they're unconscious, where it will then begin to drain even more and potentially kill them outright. Meaning more tactics and thought have to go into your squads. Now here's something odd about the missions I noticed while I was playing, in which I had experienced missions that I had never experienced before. The standard kill all enemies missions are here of course, but on the other hand the bring back a living subject missions are completely gone, and when I was playing this in college, the kill all enemy missions were all I experienced. This time I was able to experience item retrieval missions and base assaults, so it was quite nice to experience something new. Of course, however, some of you watching at home will have experienced these, but to me this is something new. Once you complete your objective of the mission, a climactic ending happens. Then you're taken to the loot screen. Unfortunately, you can't bring all of your spoils of war with you. You can load up the UFO before or after missions to decide what equipment to take with you. but you cannot exceed its limit. If you go over 100%, it won't take off. So prioritising what's important is definitely a factor now that needs to be considered. Once you complete the pipeline mission, water returns to the base and then the plot advances. You're told now that you can start expanding your territory to build more mines to get more resources for construction. And this is where I did a dum-dum. So the way it works is like this. Any territory that's unoccupied is in white. You send out a team to build an excavation site there so that they can survey the area. Once it's done, you can then send another team out there to build a mine in order to add to your materials. However, when you click an unoccupied territory, it tells you what can be built there, but my stupid ass thought that's what would be built there when I sent the first team. So for ages, I was just trying to figure out how the fuck I'm supposed to build a medkit with a tiny amount of chemicals if these mines that I'm supposedly building aren't even giving me a tiny amount. So don't make the same mistake as me, kids, and maybe you can have a surviving Harold in your team. So whenever a mine is built, it adds to your total materials. This time, materials that you have are counted differently. So that means that if your mines are producing enough materials that you can class them as a tiny amount, then you can make anything that requires a tiny amount of said material. Meaning that if you wanted to, you could build 100 medkits without ever going below tiny. And if you aren't a twat like me, then you can use this newfound knowledge to build up your character's gear, such as making bullets for their homeworld weapons, laser weapons, medkits, repair kits, and new spacesuits. Later on, you can develop drones to assist in missions and upgrade the UFO to carry more loot, amongst other things. You can also give your colonists training to improve their capabilities, and thankfully in a much more user-friendly way. Everyone in your roster has a number which represents their level, with the colour representing a class. White is military, red is technician, and green is scientist. Military units go on field missions, technicians build equipment, establish sites and construct the base, and scientists research technology. Some of the colonists are show-offs and have 2 classes, and can be used for multiple things. Field scientists can be good medics, and field technicians can repair suits, use their own specialised equipment, and heal your robot babies. Just be wary though that some of your choices when advancing your base means that some of them won't be available for missions. For example, if you send out the technicians to go and build a mine, then they won't be available for missions and will have to be swapped out. Each of the colonists can undergo training to learn new skills, including lying down in a spacesuit. Some skills are class specific. Scientists can learn how to research particular subjects faster, and technicians can learn how to build certain technologies faster, as well as learn how to build mines more effectively. If a scientist or a technician is also able to go on field missions, then they can also learn skills that can be used in the field. But the best part about the training is that you can temporarily stand in the way of their education for your own needs. If they need to go on a mission, then their education is put on hold, and when they get back, assuming they survive, they can carry on with their training. Lucky bastards getting a free education with no student loans. At this point in the game, you'll just be doing small missions to grind XP and level up your units. After a while, a story mission arrives. A strange monument has been discovered, and it's up to you to find out what it is. During the mission, you fight some robots, and then the structure turns out to be a teleporter, releasing beastmen in an endless flow, and you need to escape. Upon returning, your heads begin to talk to each other, and not you, about what just happened. During the fight, one of the robots landed on the button which turned the teleporter on. Way to go, Diego! Mary says negotiations should at least be attempted, which, by the way, she never tries. So you're left to defend yourself against a stronger opponent with a plan to try and contact Earth for reinforcements. Until we get some help from an unexpected source. The Reticulans approach us with an offer to send supplies and soldiers if we agree to help them fight back against the Beastmen. Nobody tell them that we're currently slaughtering their friends back on Earth. We get some more weapons and 2 Reticulan units to place wherever we please. With them being a different race, they also come with their own set of unique equipment, usage and skills too. Shortly after this event, my satellites were done and we soon established contact with Earth.
As soon as you can send and receive computer data, we will dispatch our database.
Wait a minute, why do you look like that? Was this some sort of segregation going on? Did the normal, term used very loosely, looking people get to stay on the Laputa and the freakish cartoon people get sent away to Mars? If we were to talk a bit more about how the game looks, fans of the series are going to be divided here. The previously mentioned cartoon graphics won't be everyone's cup of tea. I personally don't mind it, but I still see it as an odd direction for the series to take, especially when it's canonically confirmed that there are other humans in the galaxy who don't look like us. The level designs in the early game feel a little lazy. Granted, you are on a barren red planet with very little on it in the first place, but there isn't much variety to the levels, and after half an hour or so, you've seen all of them. That is until the base raids begin to show up, which also look quite lazy, to be honest. What should we make the Mars bases look like? How about a bunch of squares and spiral ramps so that we don't have to make stairs?
I like it!
I didn't get any footage of it this time, but later on, as the terraforming of Mars progresses, the red and sandy landscape starts to become green with blue skies, and it's cool to see the gradual progression of your work taking effect on the planet. The enemies, on the other hand, at least to me, look a little rushed. The Beastmen look fine. They don't have a design that really sticks out or any sort of memorable features about them, and they don't really make any distinct sounding noises either, apart from their gun blasts.
Under fire!
I also don't like the design of the robots. Now this could just be my animator's brain talking here. You know when you see those videos of the process of CGI, and they have that stage where they have flat coloured shapes to get the movements down? Well, that's how I see them. You can tell that the player characters were the top priority, as their models have a lot more detail on them and their portraits are very well animated with many individual looking characters. The issue I've got with that is that I feel like there won't be a lot of recruits to join your cause. When I played this back in college, I remember often asking for reinforcements and never receiving any.
We can't send you anything at the moment, but we will as soon as possible.
Bastards. So every time a unit dies, it can noticeably affect your chances of victory. So swallow your pride and save scum. Finally, let's talk about the audio. The voice acting is pretty good. The performances are convincing and each of the characters has a distinct personality with several lines to match. Some are gun-ho.
Kick ass.
No problem.
Some are professional.
On my way.
Your orders?
And some try to sound badass.
I'll get him.
Whatever.
Most of the gun sounds decent. They sound impactful, powerful, and you can even hear the bullets hitting the surface of the enemy.
Orders? Kick ass.
The music, on the other foot, doesn't sound as great. Most of it shares a similar sound of low, slow, bassy tones, with the only exceptions being the main menu and the globe screen.
Attacking!
Down.
No way. No problem. Yes, sir.
What to do now?
Enemy spotted!
We can attack new territory. We can occupy new territory. We have occupied new territory.
A new station has been built on the planet.
There is someone who could increase his or her level.
Afterlight is definitely the strangest one in the UFO trilogy. It has its strengths, but shining just as bright are its weaknesses. The uniqueness of every unit makes you care for them more, but the way they look isn't going to please everyone. The combat system is the same, which is both a gift and a curse, because audiences want something familiar, of course with new and wanted features added to it. And there isn't really many to go around. Playing the game is a lot easier to do, but is slowed down by the constant updates. But it could be worse. The game could be filled to the brim with bugs, with no quality control, and a weak excuse of an addition to the series. Cough, cough. The game is functional and plays well. It just struggles to grip my attention as much as the last two did, even though I still enjoy it. For some of you out there, its simplification might actually be a plus, and if so, that's great for you. But if for me, it just kind of feels like it's a step back in some ways, and very little in terms of stepping forward. In short, I'd say if you want a casual-esque game to play to pass the time, then this might fit the bill. Just be sure to change some of your settings so you won't lose patience with some of its aspects. And that is UFO Afterlight and the end of the UFO Trilogy. Thanks for watching everyone, and remember you're always welcome at the Spectrum.
A new building has been constructed at the base.
A new item has been produced.
We have discovered and explored new territory. We can occupy new territory. A water supply has been suspended. Our territory has been invaded.
Input of resources has been decreased. A new building has been constructed at the base.
A new item has been produced.